Woo! All right, here we go again, GLM. We're coming around in this thing. I think it's our third time. God, love, money. You know, the major things in the world. And today, we're actually going to go through a little adventure. I'm a bit early today because we're having a fantastic dream build. You know, get the dream training going on in sovereignty mentorship. Definitely sending love to my brother Sevan, who's been, really knocking it out of the park at bringing in some of those secrets to Toltec dreaming wholeness. I wanted to get in here today. Monday just wasn't going to happen. Monday just gets too crazy. And, but I can't, there's some consistency here. So I really want to make sure we keep gathering and keep linking together. Today, like I said, we're going on a journey. If you remember a while ago, on one of our previous builds here on Instagram, I talked about this tool right here. And this is, as someone put inside of the chat, because I said I wasn't going to say what it was, I was going to let somebody else say it, and somebody did. They, of course, revealed that this is an astrolabe. And as I said before, this is the first computer on this plane. And what it can do is it can let you know a lot. It can even tell you the future. It can tell you how to sell your ship. It can tell you how the seasons move. It can tell you how tall a building is by just, calculating certain things based on its shadow. It can tell you the distance of something when you see it in the distance. So there's a lot of use to an astrolabe because it's actually replicating the knowledge that is in the stars. And this is what I'm really working to bring forth here on a continuous basis for the last 10 years is that really there's already a blueprint. So if we want to come and invent something, hopefully there's some kind of council of theorists there to vet that new invention, because the reality is that when they say there's nothing new under the sun, it's just really a reference to that under these stars that there's a code. And when someone insists that there's something new happening, you would still have to check and see, whoa, did that happen before? And that brings us into critical thinking. And by the way, if somebody is here on the line right now, I see you typing in, I'm coming through clear, let me know. Because, the audio check is always good to have from time to time. So also, we normally have some time for others to come in on the line, say what's up. I'm only going to do that one time today because I need to take a screen capture of my screen so I can send it to Instagram and let them know I do not have the disconnect X that's supposed to be on the screen. And obviously that's important because we need to keep flowing through these calls. I need to make sure I can kind of move in and out of the calls. It just doesn't make any sense not to have that. So I need to show them what's going on this side. So that'll be at a certain moment. But as for now, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this by first saying, if we're on a journey, right, and we ask ourselves, or let's say we're on a journey and we arrive at a certain place, and someone says, man, how did we get here? We should then be able to basically back trace our steps to not only determine how we got here, but also to get back to where we came from. And sometimes it's always good to get back where you came from at some point. You should go home, just to check in and, and make sure, just check in, check into your home, check into your heart. But if you get too far out in the journey, maybe sometimes you could forget where your home and your heart is. And I'm going to explain that really briefly. I do have some notes today. And the first part of my notes is, even when you ask right now in the society that we're in, how did we get here? You first have to answer the question, what is here? What is here? Because if I just say, okay, how did I get to the point that I'm at right now? You can see how, are you talking about because of the diet? Are you talking about because of the government? Are you talking about because of your debt? Are you talking about with your children? What here, where? Which here are we talking about? And I feel like that's what becomes the most confusing for a mind that also moves on some type of logic to try to figure out, where we're at in order to determine how to get back to where we came from, or even to how to chart a course to where we need to go. So rather than, I feel like, melting your mind down on addressing all the here's, which I believe that we've done a lot of that, especially in inside of the YouTube channel on the Understanding, where, we spent years going over the diet, going over the language, going over relationships, going over every single vital component of life from a metaphysical level, in order to suss out the true knowledge to the matter and what would be the best direction to go. And we've done that. And I'll say personally, I've done that because I've also been working to assist myself in this process. This is what's most important. It's not good to just talk at people all day and try to teach people all day. You need to apply that. And in fact, I found it very interesting when you just tell people what you're experiencing in your spiritual life and you're looking to progress every single day. You get into this groove with the rest of the tribe, and there's a lot of synchronizations that happen. And basically, you enter in on the journey that many of us are all on. So it's not just you're on the journey, you're the leader of the journey. It's that you get in on this journey and you find that others are also experiencing similar things. And then, of course, in that there are some folks that will just be learning from the whole thing. They didn't even decide to jump in on the journey, and now they hear about the journey and they decide to take the trip themselves. There'll be all sorts of stuff going on. So for me personally, to jump into all the how did we get here's, I've done that. But one of the ones that you could do yourself to kind of get to the origin point really fast is kind of look at origin point stories. The main origin point story obviously is a woman bringing a child into this world and the father and what role he plays, etc. But let's say in history, any origin point stories to give us like clues and codes to what could be going on. Now, of course, when you find out, if you have a thorough process of figuring something out, when you find that something out, it should still be around you. You still should be able to see not even just the remnants, but it functioning right in that time, in that day. That's how truth is. So if you find out something that is true, even thousands and thousands of years ago, the same rules would have had applied because truth is not, it's not subject to time. Okay? And so this brings me to a specific origin story that took place in a metaphorical garden, okay, in a book called Genesis, where there's an event of this being named Adam and this other being named Eve in the process of procreation, okay? Now, of course, I'm not big on any of these biblical stories, especially the Jesus Christ stories and all these things, because they're actually coded riddles within themselves, but they're given to people to take literally. And that's causes a lot of trouble. So anybody who pushes something that way, I would definitely say that sometimes you may end up having to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But since so many people are functioning on this code, let's just look at the mystery really briefly that's being revealed within the character called Abel and the character called Adam and the character called Eve and the first child, Cain. Okay? In this story, I only really have one question to ask. How much time do you think that Adam and Eve spent with Cain? That's the question. How much time do you think Adam and Eve spent with Cain? Now, this just means that, okay, all right, I've indulged you on this. So I'm going to take this Adam and Eve story for face value and say, of course, that it exists, just to kind of indulge you on this path and answer this question. How long do I think that Adam and Eve spent with Cain? Now, according to the text, it's not very long, in fact, before something pops off. But there is a mystery hidden within the story, and the mystery is actually about creating children, learning how to raise children, and what the results would be if you did do that and you didn't know what you were doing. Okay? Because the ultimate power from what we've learned here is actually being able to, what we would say is clone. We can create replicas of ourselves infinitely through time. And if we can connect with them, then we're immortal. That's what the Kemetans used bodies for. There were bodies prepared for them. They had children that were prepared to receive the Ka of those that were in the lineage in order for them to come back into the space again and thrice born 4 times, 10 times, keep coming back into the realm. And as long as the vessels that they were going to inhabit were configured a certain way, then there was always going to be this continuous awareness. And that's how they had accomplished physical immortality, which, again, there's a spiritual immortality, but, they took it one step further. Let's make this physical. And not only that, they created from the consciousness a myriad of vehicles to jump into, whether it be a beetle, whether it be an eagle, whether it be a falcon, a snake, whatever, vehicles to keep coming in and out of consciousness through, as long as that inheriting that spirit had a certain kind of calibration that made it ready to receive it. So I bring all this up because in this riddle, how much time did Adam and Eve spend with Cain? What we find is that when we dig through all the ancient texts, we find that this power that the gods are so upset that the humans, if you may, have learned is actually about how to procreate. This is also in the Sumerian text, right? And again, all these could just be riddles. You don't have to take it literal, but look at what it's saying. That this power to create yourself again is like what they're keeping in the cabinet, like the tree of knowledge of good and evil, like don't touch that, break glass in case of emergency kind of stuff. And so I find it interesting that there's this naivety that Adam and Eve, if you may, go through as if they don't even know really how to procreate and have kids, but somehow they figure out how to do it. And then a child is born. And then metaphorically, this child begins to kind of reap thorns and thistles for the parents right away. Okay? So what we're doing is we're taking a metaphorical origin story in order to find out where here is. We're making here a first point, let's say in the so-called creation. We're looking at the instance and we're seeing in the instance through critical thinking, what is there an issue going on here? And for sure, this issue is as any parent knows, if you don't really know how to raise children, you really, generally, anytime you have 2 kids, you do certain things with the second kid that you would never do with you don't do certain things with the second kid that you did with the first child because of things that you learn. However, in a traditional tribal setting, the grandmothers are already telling you that. The great grandmothers are telling you that. In fact, they're spending a great deal of time with the kids to make sure that they are prepared and configured properly. So in a correct structure, the instruction is always there. But in the incorrect structure, the structure that is not there. Okay, so in this quote unquote Adam and Eve's grandparents are supposedly missing from the garden. So where did they get knowledge to how to raise this child? And then how did this child turn out? Okay, so let's go from there then. Now, since this is a metaphor, let's bring this into real life. What is what situation have we gotten ourselves into now as humanity? Now they try to give everybody the vax and all this stuff is happening. It's like, how did we get here? Somebody may want to wake up to at some point. And what the blueprint will show you is technically how this works is your children and our children, because they're all of our responsibility, they're our fruit. So since I can map so many things about the humanity to trees and how trees function, we know that the fruit of the tree is actually generally what contains the seeds. And if the fruit if they don't drop them seeds and then that seed go in the dirt, then there will be no tree in the future. And that's how it works. The tree continues its life through the seeds that it's dropping when they become new trees. So it then makes us realize that if we're trying to continue our life, we first have to go and solve a riddle of what happened at home, what happened at home base that led us to where we're at now. And we need to add some fixes to that. So that way we can really get to a future where we're not dealing with these issues anymore. So the interesting thing about fruit is technically also on a financial level, the fruit would also stand for the money, the resource, okay? If whatever you're producing is your actual resource, your actual wealth. So regardless of all the other things that we can also create, one of the core things that we were designed to create were these children. Like, they're like our number one resource. They're like basically our fruit. They are our fruit. But then you can imagine that if we're distracted and doing something else, and we keep bringing kids into the world, and then they're not like learning anything, they're not being brought up properly, then our biggest investment is going to be kind of squandered. It's going to be like fruit that falls on the ground and spoils, and you see what I mean? It's going to be squandered. And then eventually we would get to a point where we would be broke. Like if we didn't have, this fruit anymore. And then even deeper than that, because life goes on, we will go into debt. Okay? And the reason why I'm bringing this up this way is because after deep metaphysical study, actualizing it, going through experiences, seeing other planes or the astral planes and what's going on there, I'm 100% sure the situation that humanity is in right now is due to the debt that each person is actually carrying. And for us to get out of this, or get back to home and get back to self, we're going to need to follow specific procedures in order to undo that debt. And so this is what I mean by, okay, so if somebody wants to like have a conversation, right? And there's so many topics to talk about, but this thing is like a bomb and it's ready to explode. And we got to figure out, well, what do we need to discuss right now that's the most important in the order of magnitude? To me, that would be, well, how did we get here? And then how do we either get back to where we came from, or how do we finish navigating this course to get to where we're going? And to do that, this same instrument, as I said right here, which the use is that we're still in a circle. So because circles have courses, you can plot the course and then know where you're going to end back up at. So that means that no matter how lost you may think you are, there are tools that allow you to actually chart your course back to the home within self. Okay? So now that we've identified where our money is, basically, because I just want to be candid to you. Like, this system that we're in right now, definitely wholeness to my brother Yusuf L. Like, I got a chance to see some of Yusuf L's videos today. And just elaborating once more in a legal way what some of us are talking about on the metaphysical, which others are talking about on the physical and the literal, because all that knowledge should match up, is that there is a system in place that is literally enriched and continues to enrich itself based on your work. Meaning that on the markets, the predominant thing that is being exchanged to back up the value of the corporation, United States of America, if you may, is the work of the people, the bonds in the work, and the companies and the corporations, right? And of course, he elaborates, eloquently about how this is where that whole thing came from with needing to incorporate a business, to treat it like a human. So that way it could be taken to court. It could even vote. It could do all these different things, but there has to be like a magical process that you literally take something inanimate like a corporation, a company, and turn it into a real person. As we know, the word corporation comes from the word corp, which corp means body. And we see many things in a corporation, like they build the building and that's the skeleton. People come inside of the building and they basically become the parts, the flesh. And then it starts to operate, and it operates, although with many different parts like the body, it operates on one generally specific purpose, which is dictated from the head of the corporation. Okay, so they're masters at this. I don't claim at all to be the legal master. I just know what I need to know. This is why I've been saying Sovereignty 2020, because in the details, what it points out is that basically that there's these bonds, which we call oath, pacts, rituals, etc., that every citizen of the United States has been put under. And this is moving them out of the space of being a sovereign. And the key thing this brother hones in on, which I talked about at times, but the key thing is it's through accepting what we would say is the benefits. This is like the worst case of friends with benefits. Accepting the benefits that they're passing out and then signing whatever they want you to sign in order to actually reap those benefits. Now, obviously, one of the biggest aspects of that is for sure the politics and getting you to vote. Because then what you're doing is this person gets in front of you and tells you all you want to hear, and they just want you to sign that piece of paper, sign that ballot. And then once you sign it, now there's a bunch of stuff in there, and they can roll you in as a citizen or a serf and keep railroading you, your family members, your DNA, your existence and everything. And they will so fast move on to the next person to do it to them too. They do not care about any person at all. Especially if you don't care about yourself and you don't realize what's actually happening here, because it's not happening because it's like, oh, this is how it is. No, we're agreeing to this in some way, shape, or form. And in order to break those bonds, you need to start practicing this awareness and put it in your system. Like, you may not be able to completely see, well, how am I going to become sovereign? I'm still working at this job. And blah, blah, blah. Stop doing all of that, because all you're doing is you're just messing up what these people from The Secret got paid billions of dollars to tell you about the law of attraction. Just understand the story and be an observer in it. The observer is actually beyond the master. Student, master, observer. Observer is when the master finally has achieved some accolade that they respect as being true, and people also see that accolade and they sit back and they don't even have to say, talk, do, work. It's an elder role, and you just observe. And the weight of who you are still carries because everyone knows your deeds. That's the observer level. So we have to reach this observer level with this knowledge at times and just observe and hear what's coming across and see what's up. So that's what we need to do with digesting this kind of knowledge about the choices that we need to make in the future, because you got to understand that even when they sent out this stimulus check, right, they're not into giving money away from free. This is not an opportunity for them to save face and give everybody a break. They need you to sign something. Before anybody got some kind of stimulus or whatever, they generally had to sign something. Something signed somewhere that says, hey, I agree to this. And what that is changes from time to time. They edit and, redesign it to bring in new worlds and new ideas into people's mind. And they say, okay, well, we're going to give you $1,500 for that. Here's your benefit. You want to be a part of our system? Sign this, and the benefit is you can be a part of our system. So when it gets to that point, possibly where they say, well, you take the vaccination or we fine you. You take it or we put you as a part of our, to get into our system, you need to do this. So this is why you kind of got to do this back checking and stuff now and start making your journey now into sovereignty, because the only way that they will be able to do that is if somehow you're still depending on them. And this is why sovereignty is so important. It's always been important. It's just not a new buzz phrase and catchword. Sovereignty has always been important because, see, these old families, they work in shipping, as they say, which is generally their slavers. They steal gold from different places and sell it as a resource. They sell tin, uranium. They go mine up somewhere else that nobody is. They go buy up a bunch of land somewhere and dig all the way in the ground and find resources. They plop from the sky and look into the earth and see where certain things are, and then land right in your hood, trying to change up things and dig up things. And you see what I mean? So this is because they're actually sovereigns. They're like pirates, as I said, on the ocean, claiming and building their wealth, because they got to maintain their armies. They got to maintain everything that you still should be maintaining, like their power, like how their electricity is coming in, their vessels and vehicles, all that kind of stuff. And that's paid. That's a big check, right? Like, if you think about it, like, who's paying all of that? So you can see how the world in itself is like a huge ship with everyone at different compartments and stations. But in many ways, we're getting no love from whoever's in the cabin. As I said before, how much time did Adam and Eve spend with Cain? What this again is a metaphor of, to me, is that this system has never spent any time with its children. now look at the condition of the children. Now they're running amok and they're tearing it all down. And that's exactly what should happen by the cosmos laws, because you reap what you sow. So nothing's really out of line here. But if you don't understand what's going on and make a choice for yourself and start making moves, it's going to feel like you're being wrapped up into something that not only could you could have prevented, but it's going to feel like this is not right to do to me. And you don't even know what rights sometimes really are. It's just a class we skip. As what was also pointed out, there was a whistleblower that came out a while ago working under the Reagan administration. And she revealed thoroughly how the schools were being designed to dumb the kids down. That was the main agenda, because what was going to come in 40 to 50 years, they need to make sure people didn't even understand the basics. Because back then, there was already a lot of education on why it was important to have a dollar backed by something. And, you know, all of those different key fundamentals, which actually kept the debt-based systems at a minimum. And now we see these debt-based systems like, I got a letter from another brother. He's in another country. I see Costa Rica doing it. Right now, all of these countries are going to the IMF right now. They're approaching the IMF like you would go to Bank of America. And they're like, hey, and it's interesting because what you're actually seeing is that they didn't have previous relationships generally also with the IMF. They was floating on their own resources like a corporation. They adapted some of the same things they saw the U.S. do. They started saying, okay, well, I got my resources. I got my shipping rights. I'm going to sell my own shipping lanes. And, unless y'all going to come in here and go to war, then here's how much we're charging for this. And they were maintaining their countries like corporations. But now, since there's been such a huge dip in all of commerce all the way around, and the international banking is shaky, you got countries saying, oh, shoot, we still have so many people to pay. And we still need, current to fluctuate through here. We need to borrow some money. So they're going to borrow money from the IMF. And just like in the international, the Global Economic Forum got together and talked about the Great Reset, which is something they even dared to publish. They put it on YouTube. So this is how much they're fully confident that nobody is reading and knows anything about what's going on, because they put their plan right there, the reset. How do you avoid this? How did it start? How did we get here? Because to be very simple, and I'm going to the end of my notes because I'm not trying to keep you out here all day, but to be very simple, the solution is quantum generation to eliminate debt. We need to deploy a vehicle that on all levels, that's why it's called quantum, removes us from debt. Now, there used to be a theory, out of sight, out of mind. I don't have to worry about it. If I don't think about it, I'm not in any kind of debt. And, I can see how that would be plausible. You can almost like dig your head in the sand and say, you know what? I'm not accepting that. I'm not inheriting that. No, I'm debt free. That one sounds so beautiful. But as they say, you eat from the prana. You live in the pranayama. What this means is that, well, you see, because you're creating things all the time, so you're racking up some kind of energetic signature. Whether it's you that has to clean this up, as we talked about before, cleaning up the DNA, whether it's you that has to clean it up or somebody else in your family, somebody gonna clean it up. So yeah, you may be able to ride out of here acting like it's not your responsibility, but make no mistake, someone else with your signature is gonna ride up in here and they're gonna take on that debt right from where it left off. So it's all of our responsibility to actually figure out and deploy quantum solutions for generations with our abundance to eliminate our debt. Now, it also seems very straightforward that any real solution, if it doesn't have anything to do with the kids, is not a real solution. Because it'd be like a treadmill effect. We would fix the system only for children to come in, or fix the matrix, and only for children to come in and break the matrix. Because of the lack of attention that has been spent on them and the kind of curriculum that they've been given. So that gives me, again, a good summary of exactly what I would need to deploy, or what we would need to deploy in order to get us to the next stage. And it will also ensure that if we did deploy it, we would have a very high probability of success because we actually looked at what were the key fundamentals of the issue, and then we sought to go at that rather than being just so distracted by all these other different things that are going on, which in many cases may be plausible, but in the order of magnitude, you would need to go to the root of this. And so part of, this continuous formulation of the co-creation that I was building on today in my consciousness was one about why we're here, because again, when you put people in a physical space, now what you've learned comes to the test. So before people even go to a physical space, I'm talking about for the children, I'm seeing systems now being developed. And I even have a meeting this weekend. I have another sister that's already finished something where they have systems ready to be deployed right now online, holistic systems for children. Since parents have to now do this curriculum at home, why not put them on a curriculum that actually is going to get them in the proper shape that they need to be in? Right? So that's one solution right there to start getting ready to deploy. That's children. Women, right now, I'm trying to raise my brother Diego out in Colombia. And he's connected with all these great mothers, man. There's some real great grandmothers still on the planet. And many of them are ready to come out on whatever they need, a camera, whatever, and start teaching women what's up. Like, where's your power really at? What should you do with your menstrual fluid? What should you deal with when you have to cleanse yourself from the energy of a man and blah, 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 right? So that's something that we're looking into deeply right now. And then for the brothers, I believe personally that sovereignty mentorship and the sister sovereignty mentorship takes you a long way because it gives you the awareness and the energetics about all of this stuff. Like, here's another thing. So just to boil into, again, rather than making things all metaphysical, actually real on the ground solutions of certain things that would need to happen. One of the bigger issues that was pointed out is also about the money, the actual fee, the fiat, the greenback. That talisman, as I call it. Because this is one of the benefits. They had ended up configuring the legal tender, if you may, directly in cahoots, since it's fiat, directly in cahoots with the scheme of deploying debt on everybody and levying work on everybody and putting them all into bonds. Right? So some people feel like, they got away from this and they feel like their family line wasn't subjected to slavery. Everybody is in the slavery now. This is a mutual cause that everybody's going to have to jump in on this. And so it's just, okay, so let me just finalize that thought. So with the money, right? So because the money is public, basically. Sovereigns have private forms of income. It's just private. So this is what takes it completely out of the sector of being taxed or any of that. But once you enter back into a public sector, even with private resources, you can now be taxed. So this is showing you the basics of if you're going to play around in their system or even use their money, that is a benefit. And they want to get paid for that benefit. And it's beyond cash at this point. It seems like they even want a little soul force for that benefit. And so what is the future? And this is why what happened with even the cryptocurrency and other solid currencies is they're private. They're private cryptocurrencies. And that removes all of that legality. This is why a lot of people were rushing to that and saying, yo, this is big. It wasn't just about winning a lottery and making a bunch of money on these charts. It was about if there becomes another tender that is private, then we can get ourselves out of the agreements that are going on with that specific contract. You see what I mean? It offers a certain pathway. And I'm not here to tell you that cryptocurrency is here to save everybody. I'm just saying that there are already tools being deployed by people who know about all this already, know about the jurisdictions, know about the corporations know about the legalities of your name and the trust laws and all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't like the new thing like we see coming out in the community right now where people are figuring that out and some of them are even just winging it. This was what they always knew. And so there were already solutions. And then every time something started changing, because trust was one of the solutions. So when that started becoming tough to do, certain territories, Commonwealth territories, then they had certain statuses. So it was something like you would have a family lawyer, if you may, or a family legal expert, and they will always advise you on how to keep moving your resources and assets to keep it away from the pirates, basically. And also in the future to keep your children from owing some type of debt to these pirates. And then, of course, that's starting off with the primary goal of one having to be responsible for whatever it is that they're actually producing and how that what they're producing is sustaining itself. So this is what I'm going to do. Oh, wait, there is one part of this that I don't want to get out of. There's a solution. Right, we talked about the solution, but we also talked about this is really about maturity, right? We have to take beings that are on an immature level and put them at a level of maturity so that they actually realize their power, and then they're able to sustain themselves and remove themselves from debt, right? So I had to lay out very briefly what kind of children you have, though, because children doesn't seem to be subject to age these days. You got the old and inexperienced running around, okay? They probably have no children, so they have never really had to go through that process of just seeing some of the mechanics that parents have to see when you're raising children, like it's not all about you anymore, right? Now you have somebody else to protect. You can't stay out all night now. You can't say, I don't care anymore, because now somebody else is really depending on you figuring it out. So there's one. We have, generally they haven't traveled. This was a phenomenon that I dealt with a lot when I was in the U.S. is that I had all the bread, but I'd go to the Bahamas or something like that, but I was never going to like Turkey, Morocco, or any place like that. There was always an excuse not to. So there's no experience from the travel. Again, this is pointing out the old and inexperienced. And generally, there's no sexual awareness, as we talked about Tantra in our last GLM. And we talked about just how advanced Tantra can be. So awareness of that kind of stuff was just not even present. And that would create an old and experienced person, which would make them very immature and like a child, right? And then, of course, we have the young and the rebellious, right? And in this case, their parents generally are steeped in debt. This generally is the reason why they're not even able to spend time with the child. The job is just calling them. And the debt is coming from a lot of the things that they're signing. The car note, the house note, the new stereo system. So all these things that they're signing, they're accruing all this debt, but they're going to go and work that off. And so they got to go to the job. So this means that time's not invested in the child. Hey, this is a system that I'm coming from. This is a system that I'm living in. This is a system that I am hoping to put into balance. But I got to cite the system. This is the young and rebellious. So the parents are in the debt. So the kids already feeling the debt of the parents. On top of that, they generally have no education. They buck the system. They listen to Prince EA. Don't go to school. You see what I mean? And we know the indoctrination, Wolfenschaunkrieg, all the different indoctrinations within the school system, and the boringness of the school versus the strip club, parties, block parties, raves, all the other stuff that's saying, hey, do this and not school. You can't party all night and then try to make it in school and ace it. It's not going to happen. So generally no education. And then finally, bad mentors. We talked about this before with, just this industry, and this industry got everybody thinking that this is what it's like. Now Cardi B is these girls' mentor. So you can't imagine that tree is going to bud any fruit than what you see. Unless somebody gets in there and intervenes, does the proper pruning, and then actually allows it to grow from this level of shit or fertilization that it has now ingested. That's the beauty of all this. This is why we know that there is still some solutions that can be deployed, because when you look at all of the negative aspects of what I just talked about, of the distorted aspects, you can still see that is actually fuel. we use the feces on this planet generally for fuel or to grow things. The nitrogen, the methanes, we can use those to combust and to create fuels in order to grow things and fertilize things. So just because we've seen all of this go on, and it seems like a lost cause, this could also be because we're looking at where is here. Should we just, what about the diet? They got to fix their diet. Oh my goodness, they're going to have to also fix their legal standing. Oh my goodness, they're also going to have to fix their money. Oh my goodness, they're also going to have to fix their, and it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Start at the first part though, because I can guarantee you if you deal with the first part, it's going to trickle down into all of those. It's like you're downstream trying to work with some of the things that are going on downstream, and it just seems like it's continuously coming, it won't stop. And we got to go upstream and say, well, where's the mouth of the river? The mouth of the river is the children, because there actually are current. There are fruit. And if we don't secure our fruit and get them into the proper stage to where they understand how to, as we talked about before, clean the maintenance and clean the chain, and not gain more debt on the chain, then we start seeing rapidly a new present, a new future. And this is how, again, just a lesson in critical thinking today about how to begin to think and use the consciousness, if you may, for discovering solutions and then how to get to the root of those solutions. So this is what I'm going to do. And I'm actually going to answer some of these questions that are here because there's only 4. Do that in a rapid fire way. First of all, I also want to say wholeness to everyone who's jumped in here on the line. Thank you so much for continuously being present over all this time, tuning into the station. You're seen, you're known. All the tribe members that are also here, stand in place, the pillars. These are wonderful times because we get a chance to see ourselves clearly. Like this government and all these people acting out, and you're seeing who they really are. It's important for this 2020 clear vision, as they keep saying. This is the time where we need to see what we're dealing with so that way we can actually realize what's happening, so we're not that confused, or actually not confused altogether. So this question it's from Meet Caden, and I believe it's a brother is asking, do you have a moment to answer a question? Oh, good. Do you have a moment to answer a question about some monatomic gold that I bought from your site? Okay, so I would just say I'm going to answer the question about monatomic gold. Okay, and obviously you have several elements that can be put on what we call high spin, which is basically equivalent of putting it into a mini collider and then getting it into a format where it wouldn't be what we would say is poisonous to the body, because you can't eat gold. But when you basically simplify it, I'm not going to get into complex monatomic alchemical jargon. When you simplify it, it could be ingested. What is the goal? Okay. Fully charged monatomics, we found, burn out the lower areas of the chakra center. I kind of posted a video about that, just earlier today. Activating Kundalini, and then Kundalini starts frying your neural system, and you're not ready for that kind of voltage because you don't have that kind of insulation, and this ends up becoming somewhat of a catastrophe for you spiritually. So there's other substances that can actually do that. Acid can do that. If you take a lot of acid and you keep doing it over and over and over again, you're going to burn out your neurological system, right? So what we've designed is a fully synthesized particle that is not charged to a degree where it's going to burn out your centers. It's developed at a specific angle, so we basically bend the water at a certain angle, and then when you ingest this into the body over time, it builds up your conduction. So just like in a battery, right, you see that they have this water in there. It looks like water, but obviously that's an acid mixture. So it builds up inside of the body where the consistency of the fluid that is in your spine is more conductive and also it is working as an insulator, like a semiconductor. So I trust that that gets that question answered. Okay, so somebody says that there's a confusion in the chat. Please be more clear regarding inexperienced children in Tantra. There's confusion in the chat. And okay, so just to be very clear, the act of creating self is a sacred act. Like to reproduce yourself is a sacred act. Like it's something that you really need to be on point with. Why? Look around us. How do we get here? It's as simple as that. That if you don't know what you're doing, it's not one of those where you could just kind of like wing it. Something's going to happen. And this is why they're promoting this in the society. They want you to have kids. As I said, they're fuel for their fire at this point. Negative fire energy burning up everything. It needs more fuel. It's going to cling to it. Hey, just produce more children. It's going to keep stimulating you on the sexual level so that you just keep having more and more children. But the act itself is sacred, because there's this whole thing you could do with children, like from the time of the conception point, when it's in the womb, you know, some of the tones and the vibrations and the places that you can have the mother see, some of the things that she can eat, the time in which the conception happens. Remember this, and we talked about this in the Sovereignty Mentorship course about conception times. And this is like, you know, right now when most people get someone pregnant, they're just like, oh, I'm pregnant. It's seldom a plan. And if it is a plan, it's seldom based on having a child during a certain time. However, you wouldn't really plant a tree anytime you want, especially not the big trees. The big trees, you need to plant them in specific places. You need to dig it certain depths for the seed to take. You got to soak the seed. There's a whole process because of the complexity of what you're doing. So too, the ancient mothers, they would chart out when they would have a child. That book, Alien Wombs and Alien Spirits, was what really showed us that in depth in the tribe of the women in the Sudan culture, where they knew how to draw down the power of the stars because they knew when certain stars were going to be passing over. And they knew that if a woman had a conception right during that time, that it was going to attract the energy from that star, and her womb being used as a wormhole or a vacuum or a black hole would pull that into that space through the man's electron gun, which is his orgasmic point through the tip of his penis. So if there's any confusion about something like that, you can see why, because you have so many novices trying to interpret such complex matters that grandmothers would be sitting around. You know, grandmothers would even be in a room when the process was happening of the insemination. That's how deep it was. So, of course, in a time now where, like I said, it's used to like, I just want to feel good. And, this is how you clear your, and all that. That's not all that it does, obviously. And doing that too much also puts one, if they don't know about the other elements, the fire, that's the fire, the water, the wind, the earth, as I brought up. If they don't know about those other elements, then they get off balance and the energy just starts consuming, just like the problem we're dealing with. It's like then the person just becomes just the same as the issues that we're dealing with right now, because they start consuming and burning up things too, right? So hopefully that clears up things. The questions would need to be asked directly if there's something specific, because I cannot follow the chat. Somebody says, what is your thoughts on urine therapy? It's definitely about the kind of food that you're eating. There's definitely something about urine therapy that is very healing. I did go on my own stint of it. And I also can say for sure that if a person doesn't have the proper diet for it, then, it's something you need to clean your system to do, but has a lot of beneficial effects for the human being. So, if you're asking if this is thumbs up on it or not, it's definitely bona fide. Somebody else here is asking, what do you think happens on December 21st with the geomagnetic event, and how do we prepare appropriately? Okay. Again, what you're looking to happen on December 21st actually already happened, I believe, on June 26th. Okay. So now there's a consecration around an event that actually has already happened, and now that event is being rescheduled to the future, And others are actually looking at this and saying, hey, is this going to be the end of the world? Now, I'll tell you this. To the magnitude of how people are explaining the event on December 21st, you don't even need to worry about it anyway, because we would all be living in an entirely different realm after that. Glorious. Like, why worry yourself about it for these last 3 months? Do you? Okay? Now, if it goes on after that, which I'm telling you it will, just like in 2020 or 2012 it did, and we still find ourselves in the continuous process of what's happening already right now, meaning that by October even, stuff is going to be going on that makes these December 21st and also 2012 prophecies seem like we're at that point again. It's going to be the end of the world. This is going to be how it triggers. And I'm saying, if you're on a 72-year on average stint on a planet and you're worried about a couple years, you have your priorities in the wrong place. You would still need to figure out the same thing you need to figure out right now anyway, which is the same thing we were talking about today. Deploying the solution, cleaning up the debt, creating your own quantum system of abundance to remove yourself from this vortex, right? So as far as December 21st, life will go on. Things are already accelerating into a level that's saying you need to be a sovereign because we're moving into the air. That's the overall thing that this will show even, is that we move through seasons even every thousands of years. You know, now we're into technically the air, or we move through elements. So we're going into the air element. And when you understand everything about air, you know that things are going to be a lot more orderly and systematic. We're coming from fire at this stage. So the breaking of boundaries, which is like even what you see with you're already getting a hint of air coming, because see, fire, it has no borders. It breaks through borders. So even being able to fly off into other folks' country and go all up into somebody else's tribe with your camera and all that kind of stuff, that's all fire stuff. Fire breaks those kind of boundaries. Even the mamas were saying people shouldn't even be walking on certain areas. Is how sacred some of these places are. And people build houses on these areas now. So that's all fire culture. They break boundaries. So when air comes in, you're going to actually see that breaking boundaries thing starting to be removed, which it has. Now you got to go through all these different channels to go across the border. So if you know that that's coming, though, there's a way to begin to align yourself properly to benefit from the air. Because there's always what you would say is pros or positives and negatives about elements. But if you're not prepared at all, you're sitting in negative fire, which is pretty much opposite to where we're going, that would feel like a pole shift to you if you didn't know your nautics and were like, hey, I know we're about to go into this, so, I'm about to get my system together. I see the borders are going to probably be locked up, so I'm going to go ahead and get everything that I need to have right here. I see I need to be sovereign. Oh, whoa, looks like sovereignty is the only way at this point. Get ready to let go of fiat. Well, I got to build up some currency first. I need to look into another market. I need to go private at this point. Get out of this whole public thing. Stop accepting gifts from these con artists. Blah blah blah. So you would basically start charting your course, and that's what you would be doing if you were mature. Like immature is like, let me see what the new Nikes look like, and let me go downtown and blah blah blah. It's like, I'm not saying you can't do any of that. I'm just saying if there's an incessant that, and there's never a, where am I going to, how am I going to stabilize my family and things, then, it's a product of it. But I always say, though, if there's no solutions, though, why wake someone up to a nightmare? This is real talk. It's like we want everybody to be awake and activated, but awake and activated to what? Who's got the plan? Where's the plan being deployed? What is the plan? Is it a real solution? So hopefully in the sanctum of critical thinkers, elders, these kind of things get sussed out and explained to the tribe and to the community. So that way we can start going through this process of figuring out how we're going to deploy that. And it's happening. And remember, it's not for everybody. I mean, stop it already. Meaning that everybody does not do the same thing. It's a spectrum. So it's always been that you're going to have a group of people that go into this direction and they may cause a wave or a shift that others start following. You're going to have others that just stay where they are. You're going to have others that just keep going down deeper into the foundation or lower, if you may. So it's just all about what are you going to do? So the next question here is, somebody say fire, earth, wind, water, explain. Boy, we would be here all night. Definitely, again, if you have an opportunity, sovereignty mentorship, I just recently did a massive build on those 4 elements. I will jump in here in the future and also build a little bit more on them. I did some in the last class explaining really also, I guess the most important part of the work is how it connects to human beings. And that way you could start identifying the elements through human beings, which is a great lens because you have to deal with human beings all day. So when you start seeing watery personalities, and you get a lot of answers to your questions about especially the real culture versus the skin color. Somebody asks, is investing better than saving money? I would always recommend to check out our brother Jasprit Singh on YouTube, Minority Mindset, breaking down some of the key fundamentals to understanding money, financing, investing, and that kind of thing. His answer would be, there is a way to actually save too much money, meaning that if you're just saving, and it's in something insecure like fiat, you need to diversify and actually figure out other areas to actually put it. Also, if I always have a model that if you look at the money and you don't see it necessarily taking you into sovereignty at the amount that it's at, it needs to be invested. I also always say never invest more than you're willing to lose, because that can drain your energy in different kind of ways. You can start worrying about something so much that you mess it up yourself. I also do want to put a quick note here. We're almost at the conclusion of this. We have about 5 more minutes. I'm going to be jumping into the dream build tonight, just about really learning how to navigate that astral plane and getting yourself prepared, and also even dealing with these crazy dreams. This is a big thing. Like right now, you see the astral is pretty much contaminated. It's like Lovecraft country in there, the AKA gold, or the AKA the KKK of the Golden Dawn, and many of these practitioners of really the warped concepts of spirituality have pretty much infected the astral plane with their agendas, which include the Democratic Party. The reality here is that even these people, everybody you see jump up there and shield for the Democratic Party, any person with common sense would know where these people come from. And if you go even deeper, you even find connections with Kukulkan, which was a cult that was rising up and actually sacrificing towards the end of the Mayan empires, not always in the Mayan Empire. The Ku Klux Klan, which was when they started writing about Hyperborea and they were passing up through that area and they found the Sun Pyramid. They started adapting this consciousness that was belonging to that cult of Kukulkan, which was hanging people. Then Albert Pike brought it into the United States and called it the Ku Klux Klan, and then also founded many acts from Masonry and then Freemasonry, and then brought that into play, and then eventually morphed that into what we now know today as the Golden Dawn, and all their knowledge being founded on a lot of the works of even H.P. Lovecraft, which of course was a devout racist, even as they're showing in the new series Lovecraft Country. And as I said before, though, the energy, because you got to remember, maybe you don't get into all that stuff and you don't like that kind of thing, but there are hundreds of thousands of our tribe members, millions maybe, that they adapt to this Megadeth, the Metallica, the heavy metal. They gravitate towards a certain thing, and then they get into these books, and then they start calling these words, and they start calling on things, and then they get it residing in their consciousness like a larva. And then everything they create has like the essence of that larva on it. And then it hatches into the reality as some weird, monstrous video game or book or TV series or even actions. And this is all from the root. Again, if we started saying, well, how do we get here from a spiritual level? What happens spiritually? These are the people that are conducting this level of the craft. And if it boils back into the Democratic Party, that lets you know a lot about those who keep jumping up there and shilling it. A lot of them probably have no clue what they're doing, like T.I. But it still doesn't separate that, the origins of these people actually have a lot to do with some of the deeper, darker mysticism that is being done to curse the earth. You see what I mean? And so that's just in itself about taking away freedom. So that's what we got for today. There's about 3 more minutes left here. I'll spend the time in just doing this and saying this. You're going to see a lot happen around you. You've been seeing a lot happen around you. But it comes right back to that point of, how stable are you? How comfortable do you feel in your skin, if you may? This is so powerful for us right now to be at a moment in this time where we can listen to our brothers and sisters and our elders and actually start gaining knowledge to find our way back home into self. And as I always say, inside, you'll find everything. Someone would say, finally, does that mean Republicans are all good? As Yusuf El said, Republicans are a house that nobody lives in. Meaning that from what that means legally, there are few that actually are a part of the Republic. Now it's just the WWF match that they're controlling. I even believe that's still about Trump. Some are still siding with Trump now and saying, well, he's the only one stopping it. This is just merely the lesser of two evils. I can say for sure, if we get Biden and we get Harris, it's going to go more into that area of taking and stripping away the freedoms. But I would say for sure that doesn't mean that this guy showed up in a cape to stop that, because they toed a line. And they love to get people to just side with one side or another. Are you Lakers? Are you Clippers? And this is all they need. Sign the piece of paper. And then from that point, you're back into La La Land and back into that dream. So let's awake ourselves from actually that nightmare, bring ourselves into total awareness, and then start doing the practices that are necessary based on critical thinking, logical thinking, common sense. We can cross it into the metaphysical all we want, but do it based on something that that, hey, if I pull this off, the chances of me actually coming up with some real solution is at a very high probability. And as I said before, I don't really have to get knowledge from guessing. There's already a blueprint here. And it's about, do I understand that blueprint, and do I understand how that blueprint is playing out in my life? So Wholeness and Balance Vibration. We'll see everybody soon on GLM. Check us out. Specialist training is free. All of the knowledge that you need to know about money, your relationship, getting with tribe. We're here already. The solutions are here. So stop telling yourself that, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going to happen. No, you do know what's going to happen. This is the knowledge that lets you know that. And it's our duty to give it to our brothers and sisters. Like it was given for me to get it, I got to give it to you. That's how this works. The more I give, the more I get. If I hold it, I blow up. That's Kundalini. I got to let it go. So it comes again. So this is why we do this. It's a symbiotic situation. It's a benefit for me and benefits for you. Not predatory stuff like we got going on in our system. So this is how we create things. This is how we look at stuff and make sure that that's there. And when it's following the blueprint, then we can always really come in with trust. That's all we have is trust. Wholeness. Speak soon.